Dear friends, welcome to my channel. Let's read from the timeless collection of R.M. Rajgopal. Let's read Dilli Durbar. Let's begin. You don't actually mean to say you take them seriously, do you? Vipin sounds slightly irritated. He realizes that he does, but he isn't apologetic. Not in the least. Irritation is what a question as inane as the one Rajendra just asked him deserves. Imagine taking these pronouncements seriously? What was wrong with him? A while ago, Rajendra had asked him, "Do you think they're serious this time? All this talk of major policy changes and fewer controls?" The two of them are in the canteen on the ground floor of the office block of this building that must have been roomy and majestic in its time, but was now no more than a shady, seedy, the result of a combination of apathy and studied neglect. The place is crowded at this hour, and they are sharing their table with four others, two known to them slightly and two strangers, probably visitors. The table has thin steel legs painted black many seasons ago and a white formica top which was now grayed and yellowed and stained in many colors. It wobbles slightly as Vipin presses the top with its palm to emphasize his pronouncements. The place is crowded at this hour, the dozen or so tables all occupied, cups of tea and coffee moving in from the kitchen on loaded trays. You know what? What governments are like? This is part of the political routine. They ride in on a wave of euphoria, feeling very good about themselves. It's almost compulsive. They say the right things. I mean, you can't have a new government come in and make no pronouncement. Can you? Tell me, can you? They ride in on a promise of change, so they have to utter these inanities. I mean, but take them seriously. You must be out of your mind. Vipin pauses for a second or two to sip his tea, served in a coffee mug chipped along the mouth, the handle missing, except for a remnant of the curved stub that protrudes on the side, forcing him to cup it delicately with his palms, delicately because the tea served is hot, nearlessly tasteless, but piping hot. Do you remember Rajiv Gandhi? The year 1985? 400 plus seats? I'll clean up the Congress party, he said. I'll eliminate all the power brokers, Mr. Clean. And what happened in the end? They cleaned him out, didn't they? Cleaned him out, converting him, and things were back to the good old days. I agree, says Rajendra. But this time it seems a little different. They are being much more specific and they're indicating dates too. No general statements. That is why I get this feeling that perhaps they are a little more serious. It will be like committing suicide, let me tell you. None of them is fool enough to do that. The whole thing is too intertwined, Rajendra. It is a full circle and it is very hard to breach. The interests are dug in too deep for anything to really happen. I mean, people like us are a small fry, extremely small. Okay, some of us make small amount of pocket money on the side. I'm not pretending that doesn't happen. But what of the big fish up there? 3% into Swiss bank, half for themselves, half for the party. And we are talking about thousands of crores. 3% of that is a lot of money. Vipin pauses to sip his tea. Can they ever fight elections without that money? The whole system is too intricate for anyone to be able to unravel it now, my friend. Vipin glances at his watch. It is 15 minutes to closing time. He swallows the last of his tea and pushes his chair back. The meal would probably set him back 3 or 400 rupees. But so what? He was only 42. He had 16 long years left and the system was well oiled, and he accepted that the income did not fluctuate a bit seasonally, but on the whole, things were more than comfortable. Import license and duty drawback claims weren't going to go out of fashion. Not that easily in any case. Too much was centered around the issuance and what went almost naturally with it. That's why we believed in living life well. A 2-year-old Maruti, decent furniture, new curtains, every 3 years or so, and a Sony TV. Sangeeta couldn't complain. No flashiness, of course, subdued well. Conspicuousness attracted unnecessary envy, and that could lead up to all manner of unpleasant happenings, which was the last thing he wanted. Hence, a degree of austerity was essential. Yet, as he sits in the bus and watches the tree lined avenues of South Delhi pass by, the air smoky with the smog that has settled in early in the evening, a degree of disquiet settles in on him, deep within his mind. Try as he might to suppress it, little bits of it surface into his consciousness, and he can't seem to shake it off. He attempts to laugh at himself for thinking such thoughts and says to himself, "It's all rhetoric. Now, don't you start taking them seriously. People like Rajinder are bad enough." Life is good, Vipin says to himself empathetically as the bus stops at the traffic light before it turns toward the road on which the block of apartments where he lives is situated. Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium towers in the foreground to the left. If only he could get them an air conditioner, summer would be perfect too, especially July and August. For a cooler was fine until then, but he didn't dare to indulge, for that was the easiest route to being noticed. Maybe they could move to the 3 room set that they had acquired at Rohini, away from prying eyes. But that would mean that the rent would stop coming in. Besides, Lodhi was so convenient for all of them, and at the school at which Sangeeta taught was just a 10-minute bus ride away. Sandeep's school was close by too. Cost him all of rupees 500 a month if he added up all the little bits, but he believed in giving Sandeep the best, giving him a head start in life unlike what he had at the government school and Khalsa. The buildings from a 3-storied rectangle of windows and tiny balconies, a rectangle with gaps at the 4 corners of passage. A cricket game is in progress in the dying light in the quadrangle in the middle, and he can see Sandeep in the distance. He waves to him as he enters the stair. Sangeeta has spotted his approach and opens the door even before he rings the bell. As he deposits his briefcase and a video cassette in the bedroom, she busies herself in the kitchen, boiling water for tea. "I've got Tridev," he yells to her. "We'll watch it after we get back." She'd wanted to watch it at Odeon, but he'd put his foot down. What with terrorist and bomb scares and all the rest of it. He'd bought the midway at one of the traffic lights where his bus had stopped, and it had been too dark to read on the bus. He settles down on the sofa, part of an upholstered set. A 3-seater and 2 singles that they had picked up for a bargain at Panchkuya Road with carved legs and velvet fabric. He glances through the headlines as Sangeeta places his tea on the table in the center. A new Hitkari set with deep purple flowers running around the cup. None of the chipped variety that he used in the office. Standing behind him, she peers at the paper. Commerce Minister promises speedy liberalization? He will simplify import-export procedures, partial convertibility. Sangeeta is intelligent and aware, but more importantly, there has been talk at school in the staff room, and she realizes what those headlines might imply. It's been going on for so many days, and maybe this is the right time to ask him. What will happen if they implement all this that they have been promising? She asks. Vipin has a strange look in his eyes as he turns to her and he says, "Don't be silly, Sangeeta. They won't. This is what every new government does. You know that. Better call Sandeep in and ask him to bath and change. It's 6 already. Remember, we are going out for dinner today?" he adds. So friends, this is the end of the story. Please stay tuned for another new story.